one of my first questions, and I don't think I've ever asked you that. Years ago, when you first started Fictionary, how and why did you start it?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the short version of this story. I wrote three novels. I got an agent. My agent suggested I take book three and make it book one, which I did, but it's a very difficult task. So I made this huge spreadsheet. And my husband happened to walk by and said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm writing." You're writing in Excel, are you? And I said, "Yeah, I am because, I need to keep track of all these things. I got my entry hook, my exit hook, I've got to remember all of this and I can't remember it." And he's like, "Oh, there's an app for that. I'll find it for you." Of course, there wasn't. There's nothing for structural editing. There's nothing. And
What
there's
year,
still nothing.
what year was this?
Oh gosh, so that would have been, well, probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And so we were at the time sailing around as you do in the Caribbean. And when we came back, we thought, we can't go back and work in a cubicle and we're not going back to high tech. And what are we going to do? And then we thought, well, let's build this app. And so it just it evolved on its own because of what I was doing with my novels. And both Matthew and I come from a high tech background, so we put the two things together, and I think around 2014 or so we started, and then we hired developers and we had this thing built, and it came from that.
That's pretty cool. And then so you get this going for your own book project, and then how did you know that others needed it too?
So there we were living at the time in Victoria, BC in Canada, and we joined a startup program for entrepreneurs, and we followed their process. And we started going to writers' conferences and interviewing writers and talking to writers online and just learning really what other writers did. I had a lot of writer friends through my publisher, through my agent. And so uh, we really thought we had something based on that. And then we got very, very lucky and we met Scott Lake, and he's one of the co-founders of Shopify, and he
Oh,
invested in Fictionary. And so
okay.
he was our very first, "You have something here, I'm going to help you." And so between the startup program called Viatech and him, that was enough for us to go, okay, this looks real.
Okay. And now it's really real.
Hmm.
So I guess I asked that because I do not come from a writing background, right? Because we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I'm not a writer. I didn't ever want to be a writer. But I have this really big story that had Hollywood interest before it had any novel interest.
Yes, I
And so
remember.
we had turned in a couple scripts to Sony, and we got marked, if you remember, pretty high with creativity and originality. But they said that I really need to work on my plot and pacing, and I had no idea what that meant. These
Mhm.
different language to me, right? And so, yeah, so I remember like thinking, what do I do? How do I, because I didn't have the books, I didn't have any book written. I just had 3,000 pages of horrible text, right? And then from my point of view, um, I remember logging, like joining Fictionary, but really staying in the background, which is kind of my
Mhm.
personality for probably like a year. And then I remember, oh, I forgot his name. I want to say
James Gallagher.
James Gallagher. So he mentioned something in the chat where he had worked for Penguin or some I forget some major
Mhm.
publishers, and how much he enjoyed working for you in Fictionary. What he spoke about the community that you had built with all these authors, and I emailed him privately, right? And I wanted to
Yeah.
ask him like, what did you mean by that? Right? And he was the one that got me in touch with you. But I remember that conversation, um, yeah, really clearly because what you built is about helping others, and the keyword kindness, right? Helping others,
Yes. Kindness.
and so that's what originally drew me to you because I have no knowledge on how to write as you know, a
You
sentence
had
or
some
a
because you
paragraph.
had a book written. You did have some. You're not giving yourself enough credit. You just need
We'll
a
we'll
little.
talk about prose in a little bit because that conversation's still fresh in my brain too. But I guess where I'm going with this is that what you created could help someone with really zero writing skills and knowledge in a way where not only can you help elite writers, but beginning writers like myself really create something wonderful. So if I've never
Yes.
thanked you for that, I'm thanking you that for that now, and what you've done is absolutely incredible.
Thank you. So two things on that. One, I believe in the kindness thing because I think when people feel good, they can be more creative and really write something special as opposed to being squished down of this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Instead of, hey, you've got this great baseline. What about these things that you could change to make it even better? And then people can be creative. And James was one of our certified editors. And we started our certification program for editors because I was doing a lot of edits at the time for other people's structural edits. And what I was finding was people go, hey, Christine, I've already had a structural edit, but can you look? And I'd look at the edit and think, ooh, that's copy edit. You didn't get a structural edit. It's the wrong thing. And people were getting edits by other people saying, well, I'm an editor because I wrote a book, etc. So we started training editors. So we had professional editors who understand story structure and could help people. And part of passing being a certified editor is you have to give actionable, kind, comprehensive advice. So the writer walks away knowing what they're good at, knowing where they need to make changes in a way where it's very specific. This is what you do for this book. And so I'm really proud of that program because we've had a
Oh,
ton of people come through and hire editors that have just really helped them. Even though you ended up going with Lisa Taylor, because James, I think, was too busy at the time, and we brought Lisa on for that. Lisa's had an absolute joy working with you and working on your series of books, which started as 10 books, right?
we're getting it down. We're gonna tidy it up. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, from a again non-writer point of view, so I kind of get going with Fictionary, and then there's all these new terms that are so new to me. I don't really know what to
Mm.
do. Right? Plot point, the middle, plot point two. I mean, you know a climax because you've seen enough movies or read enough books, but I never understood the percentage. This has to go here. This has to go here. So that, and that's probably more my math brain, like your math. I
Mhm.
like that. And I've never got to tell you, but even in the music that I write, I apply those same rules of
Nice.
story structure in a song,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Nice.
it makes the song so much more powerful,
Nice. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and lots of writers start out, and I was one of them. You start out thinking, I'm going to write a novel. How hard can that be? And then you write when you think, wow, that is really hard. Right?
Mhm.
That it takes a lot. And the thing that I love, what you're talking about is the story arc. And the thing I love about it, it has been around since the beginning of story. And you can look at so take out the books that are commercially successful because of who the author is, or they had a huge marketing budget, whatever. If you look at books that are just commercially successful based on the book, they all follow the story arc. And the story arc is flexible. It's not a formula. It's giving you a guideline. And if you know, okay, I have an inciting incident, my plot point one, my middle, my plot point two, my climax. All right, now I'm going to write around that. And
Yeah.
you do your story and you check, is it all there and kind of in the right place? You know you have a solid story. Then you can go off and start breaking the rules, but you know why you're breaking them. You can be as artistic as you want. And I think when you have a framework, like, okay, in the first 10% or so, I need an inciting incident, it forces you to really think hard about how to do that in the best way, as opposed to just writing it anyway and hoping it hits there. It makes you be more creative because you have to think about it
Yeah.
and then do it. Yeah.
The other thing that I found very interesting with your software was not only word count, but words per scene, like all that data
Mhm.
that's collected so effortlessly really shine light on what I was trying to do, right? And
Yeah, and that's a very it's a concept that lots of authors skip over because you just don't think about it. But if you get down to prose and you think, if I've spent 5,000 words on this one topic, it must be really important to the reader.
Yep,
If I spent 5,000 words on this, but it's not really, it's just kind of background and it's nice description and it's beautiful words, but nothing to do with the story, it's the wrong balance. And so writers need to be shown how to get the right balance in. That doesn't matter how great your prose is, if it's writing about something that's not to do with the story, people put the book down. It really needs to be focused on,
yep,
the story you're trying to tell.
yep, yep. Okay, so you and I meet years ago, and then you're like, I have got the perfect person for you. And that's Lisa Taylor. And
Mhm.
I absolutely adore Lisa.
Yep.
I mean, just such, I don't have enough good words to say
Yep.
about Lisa. I mean, she has been just an absolute blessing.
Yeah.
I remember some early conversations with Lisa where she made a couple changes, and I'm like, I don't know if she's read it, right? And then turns out she had, but her suggestions were so spot on, they did nothing but improve the story and the storyline and the arc. And you guys know, but I don't know these things, right? So
Yeah.
Lisa got done with the first round of edits on book one, and I think I had 12 chapters before young Chris Kringle turned two.
Yep.
And
That's a lot.
I think you and Lisa were like, no, all those chapters have to go. Nobody wants to
So
read about a
sorry.
baby. Nobody wants to read about an infant. And me, I'm like, well, these are so important. And you're like, nope, those
They're
got to
not. 'Cause
go. Or I
again,
think I had 16 chapters with Albert
yep.
Einstein. And that was another point where you guys, nope, got to go.
And that's the too much word count on something that's not really relevant to the story. You need to know it as the author's backstory, but the reader doesn't really need to know it, right?
No. But I guess what I'm saying now, looking back on it, it was so insightful and educational, and you and your software laid that out so simply with simple bar graphs. And like, that's what did it for me. I had no idea because I, I don't know, right? That's what that's what's so incredible about what you built. It's even
Yeah.
an idiot like me can use it, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, anyone who's interested in
Yeah.
story can use it. And we've changed a lot. Like we've now created this ecosystem where you have the software, we've got our live courses, we've got our pre-recorded courses now, we've got our community where the editors who are trained, you can go in and ask them questions. And so no matter what type of writer you are, like you learn in a particular way, somebody else might learn in a different way, and maybe they would rather watch videos or um attend a class or everybody learns in their own way, and so we're trying to go, okay, well, we have these options and we put this ecosystem together, and now it gets really fun because there's a whole group of people who are interested in what you're doing it with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. And it's incredible. I just get to tell you that what you've done is incredible. So there you
Thank you.
go.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lisa helps a ton on book number one. And we finally get it kind of ready, and then we're gonna have it beta read by multiple people. And then the feedback to me was that Earl really needs to work on his prose. Do you remember that phone call with me? Right?
Mhm.
I'll say it just because it's a funny story and I like saying it. So we had multiple people beta read book number one, and you're going to deliver the message that Earl needs to work on his prose. And I said, PRO apostrophe S, like becoming a more professional writer. And you said, no, prose, PROSE. And I said, I've never heard that word before. Right. And you went, oh my God, okay, go on Amazon right now and you're going to buy these 5 books. You remember that? And I remember one of them it was called The Best of Sentences or The Worst of Sentences, something like that, right?
Yeah, I probably recommended Sasha Black's book too.
You did, yep. And I read them, and then I finally understood what prose meant. So yeah, what do you remember about that conversation? Just because in my world it was hilarious.
Well, one, open attitude, right? That was you. You are a clear learner. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go figure this out, right? With the right resources, just focus on these. You don't have to read everything that's out there because there's so much you can't, you know, you can't read it all. You got to pick. So I just remember you being very open to, okay, so what do I do? How do I do it? I'll go do that.
Yep, I'm gonna buy
And
the
that's the
book.
thing about being an artist when you're trying to create something really special, you care more about it than anybody else. And so if you're willing to go and do the work and really learn it and practice, and you have trustworthy people to get feedback from,
Yeah,
not your mom going, "Oh, it's so good." And you go, "Oh, thank you, mom."
yeah.
But really she's thinking, "Wow, why are you writing?"
So I've
Right?
so I've never told you the other half of that day when I needed to improve my prose. So I was late for a lunch meeting with my golfing buddies. And after that phone call, I drove to the lunch and they're all waiting for me to arrive. And they're like, "Oh, Doc's finally here. Now we can order blah blah blah." And I told them the story that I didn't
Yeah.
know what prose meant. And one of the guys goes, "No way. My son just graduated NYU with a master's in writing and he wrote his thesis on prose." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Yeah, Dylan." We were in not that a little shopping plaza in Concord, kind of like a little park in the middle, and then all these street shops and vendors and bars and things like that. And he goes, "Yeah, Dylan's home. He's a bartender just across the park." And so after lunch, we walked across the park and met
Funny.
Dylan.
Yeah.
And now he's like my main helpful guy helping me with prose. He's unbelievable.
So lucky, so
I
lucky.
mean, so that all happens in 3 hours. They happen before I even get the books on Amazon the next day. And so he's been,
Nice.
so I put Dylan's name on the cover. I didn't even put my name on the cover because he wants to be a writer,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's got his master's in prose. What are the
Mhm.
odds, right?
But
And
really, that day too, that day.
that day, I mean, within 2, 3 hours, it goes from
Nice.
he's like, "Okay, I'll log into your Google Drive and I'll see what I'll see what you got." And
Yeah.
then that night he made a couple edits, and I'm like,
Yeah.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, okay, all right, that's a better word choice, right? But I didn't know if he was lucky or if he was really good,
Yeah.
right? Because he's 26, 27 years old. How much can he know, right?
A
Well,
lot, apparently.
turns out he's really good. And anyways, so yeah, so
And
that's my
it's also an interesting point of when you're first writing the story, you need to get the structure straight and straight. And so what we're trying to teach through Fictionary is just write it. Don't worry about the prose. Write your story. And when that is really solid, go back and play with the prose because then you have your story. But if you write, I don't know, 100,000 words, say, and you're going to cut half of it, and you spend hours and hours rewriting, 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 it doesn't help you. Instead, write your story
yeah,
and then go back and work on the prose. And then the next book you write, then you're practiced at your prose based on a good story. And you know what prose is related to the story as opposed to nice prose for the sake of nice prose.
yeah,
And when you get to your next book, it's much easier to write because you know how to do it. And you know what a good sentence is. And so now you've got the structure knowledge and the prose knowledge, and then you move forward. It's that first book that's so difficult.
yes, especially not being a writer or a real writer, but yes,
Well, you are now. You are now. When you
I
started,
am,
maybe not, but you are now.
I am, well, I have a hard time admitting that, but that's what patients say. So when they see the book and I try to tell them,
It's
because they walk into
beautiful.
my office and they're like, "You wrote this? When?" That's the question. Like, when? Why? And so I give them a little bit of kind of
Nice.
information.
Hmm.
But yeah, so anyways, and then Pam. Pam was so great from a copy editing, but I think it was a little much for her, or that's what I remember. I think there was 8,000 changes she had, and she's like, I don't know if I could do this again. So I felt sorry for Pam because I think she got it before Dylan, and it was so much to change.
Right,
I think it was a little much in her hands. It wasn't polished enough.
right,
Anyways,
right.
that's what I remember.
Yeah. Uh-uh.
Okay, now on to my new favorite topic.
Okay.
Edwina. How did you come up with Edwina? How did that play into Fictionary?
Well, so that came from I've written now 7 books in the Write Novels That Sell series. So, Secrets to Editing Success, Secrets to Outlining a Novel, Secrets to Writing a Novel, Secrets to Writing a Mystery, which I co-authored with Lisa Taylor, who we've talked about, Secrets to Writing a Romance, Secrets to Writing a Fantasy. And so we took that knowledge and used AI and said, okay, Anna, so we used our existing software and then put Edwina on top of it. And basically, what happens is she looks at a scene, but she only uses our knowledge to analyze that
Oh,
scene.
nice.
And so she's
Nice.
not going out and pulling information just randomly on the internet, um, from chat groups where you don't know the source, from whatever else is out there, right? We all know there's all kinds of wild things out there. So she's pulling information. So when she answers a question, it's based on the books that I wrote, based on story structure. And so it's consistent. It's with the chat, even with her, you can say, okay, so you analyze this scene. What if I tell you now that's actually the inciting incident? Would you say anything different? Oh, yes, because it's the inciting incident, it actually needs this, or because it's fantasy, it needs this, or you know, you gave me all these great critiques, but then you rated the scene poor. Well, why'd you rate it poor? Well, because it's plot point one in a fantasy novel and there's nothing supernatural in the scene. You think, yep, that's a problem. We
Yep.
need something supernatural here. So we make our when she's looking for answers using AI, she's looking at the books that I've written, and that knowledge is there.
So what you just said is like right on how I'm using it for book two, right? Where,
Mhm.
Lisa has reviewed it and she's given me certain spots where we need more magic.
Nice.
And, my background is going to be more in history and the other parts of
Yep.
I struggle with magic. And so that's where Edwina has been so perfect for me that it'll call out certain little things that
Mhm.
where we could put just little glimpses of what's to come.
You need something here, right? What hints in the scene? If you give it an opening image and say this is a fantasy
Yep,
novel, it's gonna say, where's the hint?
yep,
The reader has to pick up something, not much, tiny little thing, but
yep,
where's the hint?
yep.
Yeah.
Well, in the way we've laid it out, this story doesn't really get magical until we get to the North Pole, right?
Hmm.
Which doesn't happen until book four, which
Right.
means we need to even do a better job with all these simple little things that happen to Chris throughout the
Hmm.
story,
Yep.
right? And that's where Edwina is so good at helping me, advising me on
Yeah.
what to
Yeah.
do. So,
You know what's interesting, what you said there too, is what, again, working with Lisa, because she's our expert on series,
right,
is knowing what your what's in your book 4 and book 5 and book 7. You know these things, and so then well, I need to plant something over here in book 1 and book 2, and that's so when you get to book 5, you're not like, what, all of a sudden there's magic, where's this coming from? You need to
yeah,
hint at it. And so that's part of you having so much written and knowing your whole story, and then breaking it down into books, and then deciding what piece of information is going in what book and where do you need to foreshadow a little bit. And that makes it the whole
yeah.
reader
And it's
experience really
also it's also nice when it does give advice. I can, I'll like that's I already know like that won't work. Like
good.
that's too magical for right
Yeah,
now.
you have to tell it, right? That
Yeah,
no, that's
yeah.
too much. Give me something else, right? And the other thing that I'm very proud about with Edwina, she won't write for you.
That's what I
So
was gonna say next. That's my
yeah,
favorite thing because
yeah.
I obviously use a lot of AI with the videos, but in the writing, I don't want any AI, right?
Yeah, I
I
like to
want to,
write.
I want to write it like there's two spelling mistakes still left in book one, and
Yep,
I'm okay with it.
that's
There,
fine.
well,
That's not many.
you know the original where there was going to be a lot, and
Yeah, yeah. And
but two,
I think people who want to write their own book, if the temptation is not there, is you can't do it, you write your own book and then you look at, oh, I can make it better. Well, I'm going to rewrite it this way and I'm going to put this in, and it's really satisfying as opposed to having it written for you, which is sort of and for
well,
me personally, I'm just not that interested in it. I want to write my own.
me too. Well, and there's no way AI could write this story that I'm doing because it's so different. It's not. It has a hard time. There's no way. It's not creative,
Okay,
right?
that's another very important point is if we took the same story, very or similar, here's your plot points for book one. Inciting incident, plot point one, etc. And I gave it to you, and I gave it to me, and I gave it to Lisa. We would all write a very different book. It's unique because you wrote it. It's coming out of you, and only you can be you. And so when people are worried about, well, if I follow this story arc, you think, there's no way you and I could write the same book just based on the story arc scenes. There's no way.
Yeah,
We're just two different of people, and so you keep your uniqueness because it's your voice,
yeah.
which is really great.
It is fun. And that's what I do hear from Lisa and Dylan. Like, we need to keep your voice in this. And I'm like, are you sure? But
Yes, because
okay.
it's you, and that's what makes it
Yeah,
unique. And voice isn't just about the prose you use, it's how you tell your story and how you envision the story.
yeah,
That's as much part of an author's voice as is the tone they set with their prose and how they use words and the order the words are used and how repetition is used and all of those things. It's also the story, and that
yeah,
is all you.
yeah. Okay, my last question.
Okay.
So obviously Fictionaries help me in ways that I can't even thank you. Where do you see Fictionary going in the future? Where do you see what you've built over the last 10 to 12 years? Where do you see it going? What changes, what improvements, what do you see
Sure.
for the future?
Yeah, so we're really going to focus on our ecosystem so that we can provide a full service place where people come, and we're focusing on artists who want to work hard, people who love to write and want to learn it and do the best they possibly can. And so we're looking for serious authors that really, really want to work on their novel and understand how much you have to know, and also understand that writing a novel is a lifetime of learning. It never ends. It's continual, right? And so the more we learn in Fictionary as we're writing all of these books and developing our software, the more we're putting that knowledge in, that we can start with someone who's just beginning, but we can also take on someone who's very advanced to go, okay, so for you, these are the little pieces that you're kind of playing with now, somebody on the other end. And my goal is to keep it, we're humans, and this is why I love the community, because people. So we're actual people doing something together, and we're using technology to help us do it, not do it for us. And I'm going to keep pushing that with Edwina, that she's not writing for you. You can, of course, you can take your scene outside and have AI write. Of course, that's fine. That's not what we want to be. So we want to keep it the human connection, but using all of the tools that are around right now that just can help writers be better at what they do.
So on that topic, right, the keeping the human element in there. So with all your books, I'm sure you had to go through copyright, right? Correct? For your books, you Library of Congress in Canada, do you have to do something like that? Do you have to copyright in the United States or copyright in
No, no,
Canada?
we copyright in Canada,
Okay.
but it is
So
copyright, yes.
okay, so I don't well, I'll tell you my story with copyright just because I had a little nightmare of a problem. So all everything the written text passes with start. No part of the book was written by AI whatsoever,
Mhm.
but it
Yep.
had a lot of troubles with the artwork because I have 60 different images in my book,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah.
Have I
Yeah.
told you this story?
No.
Okay, let me grab it. Okay, Okay, so the cover
It's
was
beautiful.
not going to be copyright, and I really wanted to, I don't want to say hound them, but I wanted to stay all over them because my first artist, I paid $3,500. This is back before I was even involved. Like I wanted three covers, right? I wanted to get this character going so that I could use it for a
Sure.
multitude of different reasons, right? And so that particular artist hand drew a couple stick figures and never got back to me, right? And he's doesn't matter, but he's not doing that anymore. And then I have a graphics guy from the other Santa project, and he drew out, and that takes multiple renditions, right? I envisioned Chris the way I want him with the sandy blonde hair, parted this way, blue eye. And so, but I can't draw. But I had one of the patients and a guy that does all my artwork, a graphic guy. He drew a couple images that I want. Okay.
Nice.
But then I used kind of the images from both artists to create that cover using AI, right? And so the cover gets triggered in copyright, like that covers AI. We're not going to copyright your cover. And so I got
Okay.
it. So you get a denial for the whole book because the cover is made by AI, right?
Wow.
It is 100%. That cover is generated.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. So then I get in communications with the Library of Congress and I go, look, I have a hard time with that, right? Like and then I get Catherine, involved, and she goes, you just need to show them what you've done. Like, yes, it gets picked up as AI, but you're going to need to log that executive into your Google account where you can show all these old artworks that you've
Yeah.
paid artists to draw how
Yeah.
you envision Chris, right? And so, but that took a year. That took almost a year, and as of a month ago, it just got cleared. But it was a little bit longer than I think most people go through to
Yep.
get something
Surprising.
under copyright. But I needed it because that character now is in all the YouTube videos, right? So it's not just, oh, I want the book cover done. I'm using that same likeness for a multitude of different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And so it did have to be covered, but it was a nightmare. So my advice, I mean, in anybody making book covers, right? Know my story so they don't have to go
Mm,
through that. Make sure you hire an artist or do
yeah.
things correctly. Otherwise, the whole book may not be able to be copyrighted.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a huge learning. I had no idea. That's a
I
tremendous thing to learn.
I didn't know. I know now, and I'm glad I kept all the old emails and all the old images from people that have been involved with
Yeah.
drawing
Yeah.
stuff. So, anyways,
Yeah, my fiction books all had an artist do them, and then my nonfiction, because they're so straightforward, is one color and one font and just the title. I made them in Canva because there's not like I went with a color theme,
well, I
and
normally have your books out when we speak, but we just got done doing the Santa room this weekend, so
gotta leave Santa there.
the
Gotta leave
whole
Santa
the
there.
whole closet is filled with other material that didn't make the. But we'll pull those out. We'll get those out next time we chat.
Nice, absolutely.
Okay, I think that's it for my
Fantastic.
questions. You've been absolutely wonderful as always. Yeah. Any
Well,
questions from
thank you for
you?
hosting.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
really, it's always fun talking to you, and I love watching your progress. And I'm glad that you and Lisa Taylor are just on a roll and working together. It's
It's
fantastic.
great.